Good morning. We now cross over to Mount Sochi Hotel in the city of Blantyre, where Nico is conducting a retirement planning seminar. Now, the key speaker at the retirement planning seminar is Jimmy Lipunga.
We are eternally grateful that you could spend time with us, and we look forward to a vibrant exchange. On that note, shall we commence our proceedings this morning by inviting the grace and guidance of the Almighty, Mr. Michael Manganda from Nico, to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord God, for being with us today. Thank you, Father, for being with us in the preparations that were made for this event. Father, you took us all from our homes, our various places, to this destination this morning safely. We thank you for it. Oh, Father, as we commence our deliberations in this place, we pray that, oh God, your presence may be with us. And in everything that happens here, we pray, Father, that in the end, may it give glory unto your great name. We pray and we leave all this in the mighty name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Michael. The keynote speaker for this retirement planning seminar, Mr. Jimmy Lipunga. The General Manager, Nico Pensions Limited, Mr. Gerald Chima. The Chief Investment Nico Asset Managers, Mr. Daniel Dunga. The Chief Finance Officer, Nico Life Insurance Company, Mrs. Victoria Zigoa. The Chief Operating Officer, Nico Life Insurance Company Limited, Dr. Lillian Moyo. Senior leadership from the Nico Group here present. Media practitioners present herein. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It fills me with immense pleasure to extend you all a warm and cordial welcome to the Nico Retirement Planning Seminar. I'll be your host, and my name is Chimoyemwe Kanyenda, Operations Manager at Nico Life Insurance Company Limited. And by the way, for the past 8 years, I've been publishing a column every Wednesday in the Daily Times titled Insurance Insight, which offers views, reviews, commentary regarding emergent and contemporary issues in the insurance space. On a particularly special note, I would like to begin with an expression of sincere and profound gratitude to our keynote speaker, who is none other than Mr. Jimmy Lipunga, for taking time off your otherwise onerous and hectic responsibilities, as well as accepting to take a leading role in this, what I believe will eventually be an eye-opening seminar. And thank you so much. A round of applause for Mr. Lipunga. The theme of this seminar, I quote, it's a practical guide preparing for retirement, unquote. It has been inspired by practical as well as real-life observations. Retirement is a major lifestyle change and or adjustment. Some people do embrace and look forward to retirement, but for many, this can be a really frightening prospect. It's normal to worry about a lifestyle transition, especially if it's looming in the future. The most cited retirement fear is outliving the savings and investments. The fear in retirement that you'll be unable to meet the basic financial needs of one's household. So even those who have prepared well, they can suffer from these type of fears. And the reality is that these are pretty reasonable and rational fears. Running out of money or living expenses after you have retired and been out of work for a couple or few years is indeed terrifying. You will be older and much less attractive on the labor market, as well as less physically able or even mentally unable to head back to work. Just think about the rising medical bill cost as you grow older, and the increased need for savings to help cover these type of expenses. As you quickly find out during this seminar, there are a lot of reasons why retirement planning is important for just about everyone, regardless of education, wealth, or the type of employment that you have at the moment. So, what are you supposed to do about the reasonable and rational fear of running out of money in retirement? Nico is the foremost financial services group in Malawi, and for half a century, we have helped people to protect and grow their money, allowing them to get on with life and look forward with financial confidence and independence. As Nico, we are passionate about helping to build a better future for all Malawians. Whilst the topics to be covered this morning will be led by experienced facilitators, we hope your questions will be searching and thought-provoking in order to stimulate an interactive and lively session. To you, esteemed guests, thank you for your wise choice to attend this seminar. I hope all the amenities, facilities, and domestic arrangements put in place at least meet, if not exceed, your requirements, expectations, as well as previous experience. At this juncture, I have the privilege of according an invitation to the keynote speaker. Until his retirement, Mr. Jimmy Lipunga had an illustrious and stellar career which spanned over 3 decades, 36 years to be precise. I believe his financial and business acumen, expertise, and counsel will benefit the delegates at this seminar. Face forward. Serving as Chief Executive Officer for the Public-Private Partnership Commission for a period of 14 years, he was a principal presenter and speaker at all seminars and workshops organized by the Commission to sensitize stakeholders about the rationale, objective, and benefits of public-private partnership. The target audiences ranged from high-profile officials such as cabinet, principal secretaries, members of parliament, to technical personnel in the public sector, opinion leaders, trade unions, workers, civil society, and grassroots communities. And lastly, Mr. Lipunga has served as board member on multiple high-profile boards, just to mention but a few: MRA, Malawi Airlines, Nico, Reserve Bank of Malawi, Malawi Accountants Board, Sunbed Tourism, Lafarge, Institute of Accountants. Did I say more? Please welcome on stage Mr. Jimmy Lupanga to unravel the contents of the topic, Developing a Life Map Financial stewardship. Over to you, Mr. Lipunga.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What a joy it is for me to, what I would say, feast. This is a feast. Can I ask you to stand up? We've been seated for too long, and I'm just anxious you may be dozing. So let's start on a good note, because I believe this is a special morning. Stretch as much as you want to. You don't know what you are doing to a retirement age. Please take your seat. Yes, we are reflecting on preparing for retirement. Before I go into the substance, I just want to thank Nico Assets, Nico Life, Nico Pensions, but indeed the entire Nico Group for being so gracious, inviting me to facilitate this fascinating, absorbing topic on the preparing for retirement. By the way, Nico was the first company to be listed in 1996, and I actually happened to be the project manager responsible for listing of Nico, as I was also NBS Bank, Ilovo, and the list goes on. So almost 60% of the counters of the stock market, I actually was directly involved in that regard. So you're not talking of someone who is experimenting ideas read from a book. In fact, let me warn you, if you're so fascinated about Harvard economics or Wall Street stuff, I might shock you, because that's not really where my center of gravity lies. I do my own research because I'm actually a homegrown financial analyst, and I'm here to benefit you as well as benefiting myself. Seeking a fulfilling retirement. Let's be clear. What do we mean by retirement? In fact, I'll be encouraging some kind of interaction. We've got a long haul, and so I want you to be as engaged in this discussion. When people see me carrying a briefcase, time and again I've been asked, I thought you have retired. Now we need to understand what retirement means. It means different things to different people, but we'll get to that. The scope of the presentation is, we'll look at what retirement is all about. Whole life prosperity is something that I'll be looking at. Defining your life map. Assessing your financial situation. Managing debt. I like this one because I know the majority of this room are debt-free people. And then we look at savings and investment. How about the children and inheritance? So, you have a bonus. We're not just going to talk about inheritance. Sorry, about the retirement. We'll go a little bit beyond retirement. You know what happens after retirement? Very good. Sorry for the front. We are here to basically help one another, encourage one another to take charge. We want to understand some concepts, financial concepts, but also practical concepts that help us navigate through life, and so be in a position where we're no longer scared about retirement. I certainly wasn't, because I was actually not kicked out of a job. I ran away from a job. In fact, in the year I left In fact, I can see Patricia, she's here. So if I'm lying, she'll be able to take some notes. You know, I had to leave a brand new Prado TX. You know, and so there are those trappings that you have to leave behind. And so at the end of this, you know, I would want you to be in a position where you chart your course and make a decision that I'm no longer scared to take a step of faith and exploit my full potential. Because for as long as you are working, your full potential is not yet being realized. A lot of people look at retirement as the lowest point in their lifespan. I actually look at retirement as, in fact, a turning point towards even better things to come. Does that scare you? The majority of people reach retirement very unprepared financially and emotionally. In fact, 20 years ago, a study was done at the World Bank, and it was discovered that on average, particularly men, 60 or 70% of the men died within 5 years of retirement. I'm talking about World Bank. Why? Was it because of financial security? No. They have actually very decent pensions. But it is emotional vulnerability. And especially men can be very, very vulnerable. In my own church, I actually initiated a men's ministry in 2007 because I discovered that men do handle retirement rather badly. Because they tend to be lonely, they don't have friends, they don't have anyone to encourage. Now let me tell you, if you think you have a lot of people that you network with, they're just there for your positions and for their money. Wait until you retire, there will be nowhere to be seen. We desire to help to contribute to a lifetime of fulfillment. You don't have to stop enjoying life because you've retired. We also want to, create awareness, particularly in regard to the financial, gymnastics. There are a lot of financial gymnastics that we will really have to navigate through. But it's not beyond reach. We're not running an MBA class. And so anything that I'll discuss regarding finance, it will certainly be right on your, very, very easy for you to grasp. Now, retirement, most people understand it to mean at age where you are no longer working, you are in front of a TV 18 hours watching. What else? Now, if that is your understanding of retirement, please take note and say, incorrect understanding of retirement. A man, and I believe it also includes a woman, or let's simply say persons. As far as I know, people retire from a job, but they don't retire from work. Can I repeat that? You do retire from a job, but you should never retire from work until your body, has some disability of sort. Because the moment you retire, in fact, the substantial sums of money in your bank account can actually be a curse on you. If that means you fold your legs and not to have to do anything else. The brain can deteriorate so rapidly, much more than you think. If you decide to just sit down because, I have everything that I need. I look at retirement rather in the second sense. In the second sense is a time when a person is unable to work because you've become so senile. Okay? So whereas public sector might say retirement age is 60, and some of you are talking about 55. I look at retirement age probably around 85. That's true retirement age. Jimmy Carter is still running at this stage. He left the presidency in 1980 or thereabouts. At 93, he had cancer surgery and recovered from it. That doesn't sound to me as somebody who has retired from working. Now, a lot of you are only 45. But your vocabulary makes it very, very clear that you're almost dying. Now, when we talk about preparing for retirement, let's look at it in a holistic way. Okay, as we look at it, we must understand that a human being is actually in 3 parts. There's the body, there's the spirit, and there's the soul. The body is what you see, right? The soul is basically the mind and the will. The thing that made you to come, to decide to come, the will to come was embedded in the soul. And the spirit is a part of you that gives you, a God consciousness, a willingness to do what is right and what is wrong. The sense of wrong, the sense of morality is actually embedded in the spirit. This is really where we'll actually part ways, we'll part ways, or at least not part ways, but it's an extension from, the Harvard that you are probably used to. And we're going to cover all that. Preparation for retirement should actually involve all those faculties. Because if you're just dealing with the body, if you're just dealing with the financial aspects, what if a doctor tells you there is a malignant tumor that we've detected on your chest? Is the amount of money really going to be much help? Absolutely no. I know there's a very good chance that the majority of men in this room at one point may have prostate cancer. It's facts of life. And so a bank account on itself will not be sufficient. You need to arm yourself, even spiritually, in order to really weather the storms of life. Are we together, gentlemen and ladies? Because if you don't understand these things, you are really going to be afraid to live. You're going to be afraid to manage lives, so to speak. Be intentional. Be intentional as you are planning for retirement. No one is going to take care of your retirement needs. It has to be you, and it starts now. It's not for the old people only. It even includes a graduate or whoever has school. They have to be concerned about what is my long-term plan, what is my sense of purpose, and how do I make sure I do not waste my fleeting years on earth pursuing, empty pursuits. Be intentional, be focused. If I asked you, are you fully aware why God created you? Do you really have an answer? Of course, I will not expect you. How many people are clear, they're very, very clear about their sense of purpose in life? Because unless you are certain about your sense of purpose, you are going to find life tough. You're going to be jealous. You're going to be full of envy. You're going to be caught up in a rat race because you don't know what you exist for. defining your life map. And I just want to give you an assignment. If you've never done this evening or this week, try to prepare what I call a life map, which is basically a documentation of, what your life looks like. Can I make it maybe a little more clear? You should write what Akushimuna and Akushikazi on your funeral should say about you. Write a summary, have an end in mind to say, look, when I drop dead, I want people speaking at my funeral to emphasize the following things that I lived for. And it's high time you knew what those are. Because if you understand why you exist, what the purpose of your life is, retirement is just a bus stage on the way. I read more books now than I can dream of. I watch documentaries more than I ever did during my working life. I really feel fulfilled because, I have now time to focus on what I really wanted to do. Now, if you are not clear, and really all your energies was about saving an employer, definitely employment is going to be a dreadful thing in your life. Understand the purpose of your life. Have the end in mind and be proactive. Watch against mission drift. Do you understand what we mean by mission? You have a vision for your life. You have a purpose for your life. And because of the noise, because of lack of focus, you drift from your mission, and before you know it, it is completely different. You are pursuing goals that are completely unrelated to what you created for. A best example is Harvard. Most people don't even know that Harvard was created as a theological college. Do we know that? It was actually established as a theological college. Right now, it's one of the most liberal universities on earth. And you can't really trace much theology in the institution. That's what we call mission drift. You can drift slowly, like the West Songwe River. Every time and again, Tanzania and Malawi, they have to come and redefine the boundaries. That's what you need to do every year, to redefine your boundaries so that you don't find yourself drifting into territory that was not created for you, that you were not created for. What does a life map look like? I think I'll need I think there's a file. There's a weight. It may not be as clear, it's a Word document, but hopefully in our life map, we will be concerned about life satisfaction. What are we doing in order to maximize satisfaction of life? Increased joy and happiness. My wife and I are always battling because, I'm always looking for space for myself. And if I shuffle around all the perfumes in order to get more collections that I have had in the past. I'm not in the digital age, I love the past. Now, I'm listening to Bach, John Sebastian Bach, and fortunately these things are coming, the market is offloading CDs, so they're very, very cheap. 160 CDs, John Sebastian's Bach collection of Mozart. I didn't have time to listen to this. Now I know I'm on CD number 75 on Bach. Increase the joy and the happiness. Enjoy life. Seek what you're looking for. Yes, we'll be talking about savings, but you cannot postpone life. Enjoy it while it lasts. Okay? Also manage stakeholder relationships. Later on, we'll be looking at social capital. Do not be in a hurry to make enemies, because you live to regret. After I left formal employment, I've been to road traffic, I've been to immigration, I've been to National Registration Bureau. And you know what those places mean in terms of crowds. I've discovered they are not as corrupt as people think. In fact, I never saw much corruption. The people that complain about corruption, chances are they are very corrupt themselves. If you are patient, you are willing to wait, the service will be delivered. The service will be delivered. And you know, when you have managed relationships well, people don't hesitate to help you. So while you are young, in your 20s, 30s, please don't be in a hurry to create enemies. You will live to regret it. Some of you may be in politics. I don't know, this is a crowd. Politics is such an area where people can be very, very careless in terms of what they say and what they do. If I were you, be very, very careful, because you just don't know what that neighbor will do, what that neighbor will mean in next year or in few years' time. Also, consider self-management. Optimize use of time and energy. Let's just come over this now. We don't have much time. The USA Today, which is one of the popular newspapers, carried a story a few years ago, said, you know, an average person, I'm talking about average, I'm not saying everybody, with a lifespan of 70 years, spends times the following. This is the fonts are not that big, but I'll read them to you. An average person spends 3 years in education, 3 years reading, 3 years convalescing from sickness, 4 years in chatting and conversations, 5 years in transportation, either in the air, rail, or driving between Blantyre and Lilongwe or whatever. You spend 6 years on a dinner table. You spend 8 years amusement, 14 years working, and 24 years sleeping. So if you live 70 years, if you live for 70 years, at least 1/3 of it will be consumed sleeping. And so as we talk about preparing for retirement, it's really not about creating additional time. It's recognizing that time is limited. Even as we sit here, time is limited. And so a clever person will be one who juggles around these times in order to increase time allocation for one at the expense of the other. And because we have a sense of time, you can't plan without specific goals. I asked you, do you have an understanding of what your purpose is? Are you clear about your calling? If you are, then chart the way. A lot of you have flown in an aircraft, and one thing that I find always amazing, before you take off, you find the cockpit. They're actually feeding the computer. They decide on the route, they decide on the height, they decide on how much, what speed, at what point they take off. This is what we need to do right now. If I want to retire at 60, what sort of house do I want to have? What sort of assets do you want to accumulate? What sort of family do I want to have? In fact, while talking about family, this country has been so obsessed about early marriages. Correct? Early marriages. And I can understand. How I wish they also talked about late marriages. Western universities, they only tell you part of the story. They don't tell you the whole story. And I've had the privilege of actually traveling both East and West. I'm not surprised at all that the East, the China, the India, they're making strides, because their model is completely different. If you are planning to have a family, make a decision when you're going to marry as well. It can't just be a balancing figure to say, well, whenever I finish a PhD. Now, if you finish a PhD at 40, your firstborn is at 45, and you retire at 60. You will be retiring when the child is at Kapuka. No, this is serious. In fact, when we talk about pension and finance, it's going to be painful. And if you are feeling a little bit of pain, I rejoice in that, because repentance is near. People change when there is pain, when there is dissonance. Okay? So know your future financial needs. Anticipate your future housing needs. Know your physical condition and potential needs. Roughly, what should be your physical condition when you retire at 60? Because you can actually influence it. Learn about your employer's pension scheme. During my time of privatization, what I found fascinating was that the majority of pension schemes were seriously in arrears. Thankfully, because these were government transactions, there was always, an initiative to make good of the arrears, not in terms of the amounts that have not been contributed, but more so the benefits that have accrued. Shire, we had to calculate interest forgone and add it. MDC, it was behind, we had to calculate benefits that are forgone. If I were you, every month I would check, have we remitted the pension? Because you might discover after 10 years that in fact no pensions have been remitted. And that would be a scandal. That would be a scandal. I don't think an employer has any excuse to withhold the pension, because that is money that has been deducted from an employee. It cannot be used to finance operations. That's totally unethical. Contribute to a tax-sheltered savings plan. Protect your savings. Family size. My wife and I would have wanted 4. We stopped at 2 for other reasons. Medical, let's put it that way. Decide how many children you want to have. Okay? Because the children, they are a factor into your retirement, are they not? Okay? Now, again, there was an attempt, I remember people were saying, oh, can we limit the number of children per family? I said, why? Why? Tell me a very good reason why you have to limit the number of children. Anyone with a suggestion? It's a hard talk today. Anyone who has a suggestion? the population has grown too high. Correct? Says yes. Flawed research. Flawed research. What was the population in 1964 for Malawi? Sorry? 1964? 4 million. What was the population in 1994? No. No. Somewhere between 6 or 7. They're about 6 million. 30 years, no family planning, no contraceptive, no restrictions. Family had, whatever they wanted. Population only increased by a little. Comes democracy. You are free to do whatever you want. Right? Came NGOs with all sorts of, family planning messages, left and right. Population shot up from 6 to 18. Can you blame on families? In fact, I can tell you family sizes have actually gone down. You know the answers where the children are coming from. I will not tell you. So, on a serious note, decide how many you want to have. Is it 3? Is it 2? Is it 4? But that decision should be based on your capacity to take care of them. Because we don't want you to produce a child and count on another person to look for it, to look after it. In fact, do you know what we call somebody who looks after somebody's child? You are actually practicing slavery or colonialism. Colonialism is when you rule something that is not yours. If you want to help that child while residing with their parents. Let their parents take care responsibility of their own child. Let's help only when it is an orphan. Are we together? Sure. Children's education, holiday, health requirements, retirement incomes. All those are generic long-range retirement goals that we have to conceive very, very early in life. Myths about retirement. It's too early to plan for retirement. It's not too early. I don't need a specific plan. I'll be able to live on a lot less when I retire. You are probably assuming that you're not going to be sick. I just need to live for a moment. I'm not interested in old age. There are some enablers in preparing for retirement that I want you to be aware. Textbooks talk about intellectual intelligence. That has its place. As we plan for retirement, yes, we have to be, we have to master details, we have to be analytical. So intellectual capability, we're not talking about MBAs, we're talking just having a sharp mind. We also require emotional intelligence to prepare. About 30 years ago, I used to work with a lady, I will not tell you where. When she is very crossed, she'll just go shopping. When she's just angry, she just went into the shops and then, bought whatever she could lay her hands on. We need to be emotionally intelligent, because planning for retirement, the last thing is to be driven by emotions. We need also to be spiritual intelligence, because the human beings are actually, they've got 3 faculties: mind, spirit, and body. And if you neglect spiritual intelligence, you'll be in trouble. You'll be in trouble. And that's really where you find, some of the theories, they're actually collapsing, they're falling, because, the values that propelled Western societies, they're now under serious challenge. We also need cultural intelligence. If you are a CEO and a leader and you do not know how to navigate through culture, you'll be in serious trouble. You'll be in serious trouble. I remember we lost somewhere, not so senior person. And if we had gone by normal conditions of service, maybe we shouldn't have done a little. We shouldn't have done much. But there were a lot of VIPs that came to that funeral because that person, although he was junior in our organization, but he was a relation to a lot of senior people. You see what I mean? Now, if I say, well, you know what, these are conditional service, they'll say, these people are very cruel. So I told my staff to say, look, let's do what is needful, let's erect tent, let's provide food, but we'll not regard it as a funeral benefit, we'll look at it as public relations. We'll account for it as public relations. That's what we mean by cultural intelligence. You must understand the dynamics of culture. And so, even as you manage your finance, understand the cultural dynamics in our environment. At no extra cost. I'm not a fan of Chikamwini. And I will never let this pass without sharing. Chikamwini is actually a very backward system. I come from it, and if I had a way of changing it, I would do it tomorrow. It's amazing that the gender movement has conveniently skated this. But in my research I've done under research, and by the way, I would like to call upon the sociology department at Chasa College. We've heard a lot from law, we've heard from politicians, but I think the sociology department has been too quiet. Chikamwini has been commented on by, at least as far as I know, in 1956, the colonial government, in the financial report, they actually cited it as a barrier towards economic development. I actually have the literature, so if you want to challenge me, it's there. The next were Catholics. Who is a Catholic here? Clever chaps. In 2010, the pastoral letter actually cited Chikamwini as an abuse of men. And Chikamwini produces rather weak men, right? Men that are not risk takers, men that are not, are not strategic in terms of investment. Why should he invest, by the way? He doesn't have land, okay? At best, he's a glorified slave to produce babies. And I would like to argue that part of poor economic development in Malawi has to do with some of the cultural practices that impinge on development. People don't learn about savings, people don't learn about investment, because you know why? They say, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. In fact, there was a story somewhere in Chiradzuro, it was on BMBC. There was a man, akamakoma frame ya nyumba. He made it in such a way that it should be so easy to detach it when he's been chased away. And so we must address, we must confront some of these things. This is not speculation, it's a fact. I'm willing to challenge any scholar on this one. Our lack of investment, our lack of savings culture has to do with the way in which we are brought up. Why do you think in the villages they have thatched houses? Is it because they don't have money? Go to Liongo, they've had tobacco for years. But they'll say, I'd rather put grass, take a win next year. Because if I'm chased All I lose is grass. So preparing for retirement also involves not only cultural change, but also mindset change. Mindset change. We are coming closer to finance. Rather than you perceiving yourself as owner, I own this land, I own this car, I own this furniture. Why don't you change from today? Look at yourself as a steward, a manager. Just like you take care of assets of your employer, do likewise for your own. If funds are lying idle, be concerned that they are not earning any interest. I remember there was a time, a husband and wife, we are planning an anniversary. We are actually having ours on 29th. And today is my wife's birthday. Well, so June is very, very special. So husband and wife went to a restaurant like Rio's. They ate and ate and ate. Halfway through, the man saw a client passing by. So the man says, please come and join us. The wife was very cross. Why are you inviting a third party on our anniversary dinner? That's very, very insensitive. Says, I'm going to explain at home, honey. When they reached home, they said, look, I wanted that dinner to qualify as a company expense for tax relief. Mindset change also requires diligent patience. In finance, patience is everything. Wait. There was a time Nico shares tumbled, they fell at one point. Seriously. But they rebound and went up. As we prepare for retirement, as we look towards retirement, don't be discouraged by short-term variations. Sooner or later, things are going to be all right. Commitment to delayed gratification. Don't get tempted with anything. One time I did research, I was at ShopRite. So, there were a lot of people. So what I did was I took a trolley and filled a lot of, and I remember 2 women were following me, and whatever I touched, they also were picking it. And whatever I touched, they were picking. I just went around and replaced them. They went and paid for the things. Learn to delay immediate gratification. Integrity and diligence. Just because you have needs at retirement doesn't give you a license to steal. Because stealing has its own consequences. Stealing, corruption. I would rather you have modest possessions and honestly than to have, myriads of assets that are actually attributed to, theft and other injustices. Love and compassion. The concept of having an abundant and others mentality. This is coming from Frank Kovec principle to say, don't be jealous about other people. If they are buying stuff, rejoice with them, don't be jealous. Love them, celebrate with them. Jealousy sijani, suka zet. And when you celebrate other people, they will also wish you well. When they wish you well, you'll be surprised what opportunities came to. I remember privatizing Chisi. I was involved in privatization of Chisi Lodge. Very, very remote. No roads, no electricity. Actually, when a woman from South Africa came, it was a white lady from South Africa, says, are there any lodges left? I said, there was only one. She says, look, I can live anywhere because I'm just trying to get away from South Africa. So I escorted her, and it was my first time. The moment her compatriots knew that she was running a lodge in Nchisi. Everyone was flocking there. Not because they didn't know where to eat, but because of what we call prosper thy neighbor. Let's have a prosper thy neighbor spirit, because that spirit will sustain you. Because you prosper the others when you are in power, when you are in a position of authority, others will want to prosper you when you are in need of them. Are you understand? In 1999, I visited Malaysia, and what I saw was fascinating. There was a gentleman, myself and Uganda, they looked at us with scorn when we went to McDonald's for eating. They said, no, we don't do that here. Lunch hour, they go to the market and support those women that are cooking batata and what have you. Can we do it here one day? They do it in the spirit of saying, let me share with someone who is struggling. Make a purchase, not because you need it, but because you have love and compassion, the concept of having an abundant and other-centered mentality that will work in your favor when you now are on the other side of the fence. Self-control. Self-control. You can't meet all your needs at the same time. Waiting. I remember when I had just started working in 1983. Of course, in my case, number one asset was a stereo. It ranked much higher than a fridge and a cooker. Others had a different view. So I was laughing at them to say, look, you've bought a fridge, wonderful. Half the time I opened the fridge, there was a bottle of water. I said, wow, what an expensive way to keep water. I can just rush to a grocery and drink cold water. It was just 2 minutes away. Self-control. Assess your financial status at this stage. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? Because you cannot ignore current reality. As a pilot wants to take off, he or she has to understand current reality. What is the wind? Which direction is the wind blowing? What is the temperature where we are now? That's current reality. A lot of us don't write these things. A lot of us don't even know that we have a vacant plot somewhere. And not even our spouse knows about it. Assets are basically what we own. Cash, stocks, properties, vehicles, furniture, jewelry, investments, amount receivables. Bank loans are liabilities, overdraft, bills due, tax owed, property rates due, unpaid wages, suppliers not paid, mortgages paid. Now, don't be impressed with somebody who has got a lot of assets because you don't know how they're financing them. Okay? The next morning you see the sheriff has come and say, God, now I know. Now I know. So we talk about net worth. Net worth is what we're interested in, which is basically assets minus liabilities. So let's be concerned more about net worth rather than liability, rather than just looking at the assets. You can increase your net worth by increasing your assets, or reducing liabilities, or having a higher increase in assets than an increase in liabilities. Always make sure that the assets are higher than liabilities. Deuteronomy 27, you shall be lenders and not what? Borrowers. If you are a not borrower, that's a case. Are we together? Let me now, sorry, because I'm in. Financial institutions are borrowers. Banks are borrowers, isn't it? But they manage their borrowing so well that they leverage on the borrowing, and that's why you see these towers building up. They leverage on the deposits that you have lent them, but in a managed way. So not all debt is bad, by the way. We're going to look at that. Not all debt is bad, but let's be properly guided. Don't have liabilities in excess of your assets. And so, if we are clear about our assets and our liability, we also need to learn the art of budgeting. Very daunting, but necessary. What is the pointer? I think. Which is the pointer? Which is the pointer? Okay. Oops. Yeah, so prepare a forecast of your future revenues and expenses. Be guided by the budget for your expense. Commit to spending within your budget. Do not revise your budget every time you are tempted to violate it. See opportunities to expand the revenue. Seek opportunities to spend below the budget. Focus on needs and not desires and wants. You cannot postpone life. You are allowed to give yourself a treat, holidays, etc. In fact, for those that know the Bible, in Deuteronomy 14, there was a 10% that went to God. And then there was a second 10% that you were allowed to enjoy, eat, drink. So in fact, every time we get a salary, make sure you spoil your family a little bit, or you spoil yourself. That's not sin necessarily. Madam, where do you work? Retired. Who is active? Oh, let me ask you, because they were close to me. Where do you work?
Nico Life.
Do they have meetings?
Yes.
Tell us more about their meetings.
Yes, we do hold meetings. I would talk about the management meetings, and we hold these on Mondays from 9 o'clock. Usually they take us from 9 to 12, where we've got all the managers present, and they give a report on what they did in the previous week and the plans for the current week. So it's more of giving an account on what they're doing.
Does the nation have meetings?
The nation?
The country, as a country, Malawi, do we have meetings?
Parliament. Yes.
So we have Parliament, which is a shareholders meeting of the country. We have Cabinet, which is management meeting for the country, right? And in most of your organizations, you have board meetings, you have committee meetings, you have AGMs. The same people, when they have a family, no meetings. No meetings for family. How are you going to read a plan if you don't have meetings? A little conflict is acceptable if it is for the good of the future, is it not? And so I would like to challenge you to say, even for those that are not married, they can actually identify someone to hold them accountable. How am I handling my resources? And so family meetings are meant to look at the expenses, review the revenues, how we are performing, because that's the only way we are going to keep track of ourselves. Now, most people don't want to expose their payments. Okay? In fact, the best way to tell somebody's character, just get their checkbook. Analyze their checkbook. So accountability helps if you have meetings, so to speak. Don't worry about that. I was just trying to give an illustration, the sort of expenses that you might budget for. Expenditure control, giving to God, you should rank the highest. As I've mentioned to you, we operate on the premise that, God is our creator, and therefore everything, including what we get, whether it's Nico or Press Corporation, whatever it is, they are actually gifts, and therefore we want to give. Give to the poor. Give to those that are less fortunate. Orphans, poor people and widows, because God says, if you give to these, you are lending to me. God is a shareholder, you are a steward. The more you bless others, the more you yourself is going to be blessed. Expenditure should seek to meet the needs and therefore reflect reasonable living. Neither greed and extreme austerity are acceptable. I don't want you to be so mean with spending that you say, oh no, they were told to prepare for retirement. No, we are not here to coach you to be mean people. We are coaching you to be accountable and the proper stewards to prepare for your retirement. Prioritize nuclear family in expenditure planning. Support of extended family should be based on need and affordability. In this regard, dependent parents should be prioritized. Parents obviously should rank high if they're still alive. Now, a lot of families struggle. Oh, no. You know, I have to take care of this one, I have to take care of that, and I have to take care of that, I have to take care of that. And you know, you retire, you discover you haven't been saving money of yourself. How do we look at that? There is a principle: bear one another's burdens, but everyone shall carry their own load. Bear one another's burdens, but everyone shall carry their own load. Is food a burden or a load? A load, correct. Everyone should work in order to eat, right? Clothes, a load. A sick relative at Queen Elizabeth Hospital, a burden, a burden. A child is being kicked out of school because of no school fees, load or burden. It can be in both. It can be both, depending if the parents have really tried. Maybe the child has been selected to College of Medicine, which is beyond them. It can be a burden. But if the parents are reasonably well to do, but it's just they're careless, you know, then it becomes a load. So those are some of the principles in managing your expenses. If budgeted expenses are in excess of income, do not resort to borrowing to cover the gap. Simply reduce the expenditure. Simple. Adequately maintain your assets. Where possible, insure them. Because insuring, and you know, we have Nico General, we have Nico Life here, they are all in insurance. Insurance is a very unique form of saving because we are trying to plug the holes to avoid leakages. Yes, you are setting aside resources, you know, for our future. But if there's a leakage because of illness, there's a leakage because of an accident, there's a leakage because you've suffered a theft, a burglary, you know, you don't want that. And so you would rather manage that risk by actually going into insurances. And all those things have actually happened to us. We've had an accident, we've suffered a theft, but insurance has been very, very helpful. Don't fool yourself to say, I'm going to insure myself. You don't know what sort of illness will come your way. Adequately maintain your assets. Where possible, ensure savings should be somewhere between 10 to 15% at a minimum of your pay. Managing debt. When you borrow, make sure you repay. There are some people who forget deliberately when they have taken somebody's money. When you fail to repay a debt, it's in the same category as stealing. And remind them, by the way, when they are not repaying you, remind them, you know what, you took some money, you are not paying me. Debt creates financial risks, as failure to repay could result in bankruptcy. Debt is accumulated when we prioritize immediate gratification, you know, in the hope of securing resources and paying later. This is what is said about borrowing. As the rich rule over the poor, so the borrower is the slave of what? A lender. You know, if our country was a little richer, we could resist some of the policies. But when you want to borrow, can you resist the policy? No. You're actually in a very, very difficult situation. Debt presumes that revenues will be earned to cover the debt. Debt may distort our sense of destiny as important needs are crowded. In fact, into family counseling, debt can also create stress in a family and even a divorce. These days we don't talk about until death. It's now until debt does us part. How do we get out of debt? Because if we are planning for retirement, by the way, please warn me about time. I can stop at any time. Yeah. Commit to paying cash for your transactions where possible. Commit to paying cash where possible. Where possible, seek professional advice to liberate yourself from debt. Begin to live below your means. Life does not cost too much. In fact, at my age, you hardly need 3 meals. You hardly need 3 meals. 1 is enough. Okay? And then probably a little few. So actually life gets even cheaper as you prepare for retirement. Because you know, even when you have a lot of money, the doctor will say, no, please don't take sugar. Oh, what else are you eating? Meat? No, meat, stop. Red meat, take it out. Coffee out. Chocolate out. Oh, by the way, if you're cooking vegetables, don't put oil. So you're talking of waterboard, plus vegetables, green. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. Establish a debt schedule listing all creditors owed. If we have done a balance sheet and we know we owe some people money, list them. Even those that have forgotten about your indebtedness, list them and make an effort to communicate with all your creditors and with your repayment. So look, I can't really pay you that quickly, but you know, I'm sure in 4 months' time I'm going to create. They would rather you communicate honestly than to be a risking to be a bad debtor. Break bad spending habits. Beware of loan sharks. I hope no one in this participates in Caterpillar either as a supplier or as a consumer. In fact, it's another form of stealing. It's another form of stealing. Consider earning additional income from a business or part-time employment. I know I was very, very encouraged. A young man came to our home and, you know, he was taking photos. He says, I do this part-time on weekends. I said, wonderful. This is like a boy ready for retirement. Or I bake these cakes. You know, I do some businesses. You know, I order clothes here. That's wonderful. Do some businesses to augment, you know, revenue. But don't do business in competition with your employer because they're going to sack you. Because you can't say, oh, they said I should do more businesses. And then you do something that is in competition with the employer, they'll sack you. Dispose of assets you don't need to release some cash. You know, there are clothes that are just gathering dust. Why not get rid of them? You know, get rid of them. Pay off smaller debts. If you have a list of creditors and interest, you know, Harvard Economics will tell you, pay off those that have got a high cost first. Right? That's what the MBAs will tell you. Pay first those that have got a high interest rate. You have heard in ancient times people say that, but I am here to tell you something different. Pay smaller ones first. Okay? When you pay smaller ones, they'll immediately release cash flow to now sort out the bigger ones without neglecting the bigger one. What's going to do is that you are going to feel motivated to say, oh, wow, you know, I've cleared 3 debts. Now I'm on my way to freedom. But when you are free, don't enslave yourself more. Because some of them, you know, we got debt relief. We are forgiven debt as a country. Only to have it more again. No, once you have your debt paid, make sure you don't contract more. Don't co-sign other people's debts, not even your child. You know what co-signing means? A child goes to the bank, obtains a massive loan, and so somewhere they say, can you get a guarantor, someone to guarantee? Don't accept to guarantee any loan at all. Because once you do that, it's as good as a liability on your part. So freeing yourself, getting out of debt means, no, Pepan, here, tizingo kupemperani. Kuma didn't sign up. Tizingo kupemperani. Avoid gambling. Avoid gambling and schemes that provide quick payback or ridiculous amount of returns. Oh, no, you know, panamba timaskim pakatipa. No. If, the rule is work. If you work, you're going to get a benefit. If someone says, without working, you're going to get something, chances are, someone is stealing or it's money laundering. What are justifiable grounds for procuring debt? There are some, good grounds. Not all debt is bad. Financing an asset which generates revenue or is known to appreciate. Housing appreciates, doesn't it? So if you borrow to acquire a property, that's not too bad. For once, people that are my age, in 1989, you can't believe it, second-hand cars used to appreciate. In 1989, Forex was so bad in the country that second-hand cars were actually appreciating in value, competing with housing. Starting a viable business with access as collateral. You're starting a new business, and the bank is willing to lend on the basis of viability of the business, we have a deal. But the moment the bank says, we need your house for collateral, you say, sorry, I can't have it. Where the asset being financed is significantly higher than the debt. So there are some assets, like vehicles, which depreciate, okay? The most important point, though, is to make sure that the value of the asset, even though it's a depreciating asset, it's higher than the debt. How is that possible? By making sure that when you are buying a vehicle, if a vehicle is 20 million, if you go to Toyota Malawi and say, I have selected this car, right? The moment they put a number plate, do you know what happens to the value? Even without using, the value goes down. Actually, strictly speaking, from a personal finance point of view, it's madness to buy a brand new car. In fact, the billionaires don't do it. Okay? Even if you can afford, okay? Take something. Maybe people are divorcing, they are fighting, and they're looking for someone to buy off the cars. Grab it. Because the moment you actually enter a vehicle and it's been registered, the value just deteriorates. And for a lot of you who... Okay, fine. Oh, what was I? Sorry? I'm waiting to be lectured by you now. Anyway, it will come. Where the asset being, okay, financing, if you are paying for your degree, that's okay. You can borrow to finance a degree, but let it be a proper degree that will give you value. Okay? The debt is not high and does not put undue pressure on the budget. Where debt is significantly subsidized, during the privatization, people were just fighting privatization. I saw, when you are on the other side, next time if there's going to be a privatization again, please go for it. Please go for it. This you will not believe. EU gave Malawians an opportunity to borrow in order to finance purchases without demanding security. When interest rates were at 80, the fund was actually being offered at 15%. Nico, by the way, took advantage of it. But a lot of Malawians were just watching. And 2 years later, the money was actually retained. People did not use it. There was also another window for entrepreneurs to start manufacturing. That was, at least privatization, some funds were taken. For productive assets, zero offtake. Money nazibweza. What a shame. What a shame. It was there. It was there. That I can assure you. But when you have a mental lock, okay? When Christ was resurrecting, the only people that were there were the guards. You know that? When they went to report to the high priest, they said, that he has risen, we know. But make sure it is not believed. So people sometimes know the truth, but they choose not to believe it. Supporting a relative in need. When a relative is in struggling, don't give the money, lend the money at no interest. Are we together? At all costs, never pledge a family home. A family home, don't use it as a security. Even if the deal looks so certain, don't pledge your family home. Chikamwini was an area that I took issues with gender. Family home is another one, and we'll go for a break. I have talked to at least 3 ministers of finance. I have talked to a couple of gender activists to say, look, pass legislation in Malawi where a family should be able to designate what we call a principal family home. If you go into other jurisdictions, United Kingdom, if you have like 5-6 houses, the law allows you to designate one property as a principal family home. When you die, it is not caught by capital gains tax or estate duty. You don't have to pay. There is a provision, what we call rollover relief, which means that when the owner of the house has died, or whether it's a mother or the dad, whoever, the taxman calculates the tax that would have been collected by transferring from one to the other, if it's a child. Of course, they passed some law where if it's joint ownership now, the other one can automatically get it. That one they were able to sort out. But if you're passing it on to a child, you have to pay stamp duty, estate duty. If there was a principal family provision, what would have happened is that you don't disrupt the family at all. They continue to enjoy, ownership. To this day, I have not one. When people are in power, they can get very blind to advice until they are actually on the receiving end. Because you don't normally die while in power. You die after you have retired. And the MRA will not be very kind on you. So for some of you who have got influence, make sure you lobby for this provision of principal family residence. It shelters, it protects a family. That's the least that we need as a country. In a country where you don't have social security, at least be able to get that sort of thing. Let's take a break and we'll continue.
I'm back from the health break. Once again, we are live on Times TV, Times Radio, Times 360 Facebook page and the Nico Group Malawi Facebook page. In the interest of time, we'll proceed with the program. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you so much. We'll try to speed. Finance is a very complicated but fascinating subject. I was just chatting with somebody over break, says, oh, you mean other marriage arrangements are without fault? No, no, they have fought seriously, particularly in connection with human rights. You know, in the patrilineal society, there's always the risk of, you know, what I would call heavy-handedness and you know, almost looking at the wife as a possession. Now, these are just, shall we say, generalizations, all right? So they don't necessarily apply in all cases. And I'm sure in Chikamwini, there are also some very stable. Where I have issues with it, it's not because I've got any interest. It's because I know when I studied the social capital, matrilineal society makes very weak social capital. People say, alipungaja tinangofana na maina. Tinangofana na maina. Simnafanane maina nda abale anu. It's very difficult to trace your relationships, and so social capital becomes very weak. So it's very possible to be educated and be wealthy. The trouble is wealth does not easily pass on because of these crazy relationships. So yes, all of them have weaknesses. I attack it because I belong there. If probably I didn't come from there, maybe I would have been a little hesitant. But you know, as I said, offense leads to repentance. Yeah, so definitely you can ask my wife, I don't look like him Kamwini, do I? I actually rebelled from the system. I'm sure you can do the same. Yeah, so let's move rather quickly. Wow, this one. No. What has happened? There's another. No, don't worry. I think it's another file. We're almost towards the end. But what I wanted to add is that apart from loans, we also talk about savings. Okay? Savings. Now, savings, not sure what has happened to the worksheet. And I'll look at it. Savings works on the principle of compounding. And you'll be very, very surprised, and if my slides were there, you find that if you, I remember the figure, if you save 2,000 kwacha for 20 years faithfully, regularly, at around maybe 10 or 12%, you actually end up with an amount something like 6.9 million. If you save 10,000 kwacha, every month at 12.5%, you know, over like a 30-year period, you'll be talking of over 20 million. The difficulty is people are not disciplined, okay? They will save today and remember next year to save again, and maybe after 5 years put another saving. There's no way you can take advantage of compounding in that situation. You have to be consistent. If you have started work, if you have started work at whatever age, make sure you prioritize saving just as you prioritize utilities. On the budget, it must feature. And the constant saving with interest rate, it's amazing what compounding does. I even went further for another example, 50,000 kwacha. If you save 50,000 kwacha every month for a period of 30 years, at 12.2, it was working out to be over 120 million kwacha. In fact, the actual investment was 18 million. I think just wonder. No, it's the file. I don't know what has happened. I think I'm going to delete it. No, it's there, 40. There are slides. I don't know what has happened.
Is it in this presentation?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's there. Yeah. So most positive way towards building a future retirement fund is through savings. To save means to forego an expenditure today so that you have something to spend in the future. The wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets. Every salary has to go. It has to go. It's a must. Actually, when you recruit somebody in your home, the question is, mata pizza? Malola kuta pizza pakati pa mwezi? And that's even before a need has been identified. Proverbs 21:5, steady plodding brings prosperity. Hasty speculation brings poverty. 4 things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in the summer. Because they know winter is coming when you will not gather. Winter will come one day, you will not be able to gather. Saving tips. Do not spend in order to satisfy emotional needs. Oh, ndakuya. I'm so angry. I need a suit. I need a suit. Shop around before you make a decision to purchase. I will be showing you another slide. Prices in these big shopping malls are more expensive than in these modest stores. There's a good reason. They have ample, generous parking, okay? Generous parking, wide space, air conditioner, you know. You think it's for free? For sure. Ulibe gari moto kama galipira parking. You know what I mean? You buy and pay for parking when you don't even have a car. Prepare a list before going to shop. Go for value for money, not necessarily the cheapest. I've discovered one thing with cars. Some cars are actually cheaper to buy, but they will give you hell throughout the life. Okay, some are more a little expensive, but they, generally maintenance free. So be guided by what we call value for money, rather than, necessarily just what is cheaper. Decide on it. Watch your credit cards. They are extremely costly in the long run. Decide on a week pay day separate from your monthly. So if you get your salary on the 25th should not be your pay day. Choose a day in a week as your pay day. So my pay day is Friday. That's my pay day. So whatever happens in my bank account, I've got only one pay day, which is a Friday. Okay? Now, if you run out of money, these days banks have been very generous. You have got a mobile platform, you have cards, you have, what else? Internet banking. Okay, restrain yourself from accessing cash before your payday in the week. So if you have run out of money on a Tuesday, do without lunch for 3 days until you come to Friday. Okay, that's the principle. Of course, I'm using extreme illustrations. Surround yourselves with people who love to save. Okay, if you surround yourself with people who are very extravagant, chances are you are also going to be very extravagant. Okay, I remember I had just started work in 1983. So I said, what's wrong with sapato ya bata? I mean, you know, sometimes you can spend on a very, very expensive suit. Komosa kukala. Wino kaitola kumbayani, kaisita nkumutani. Yeah, so record your transactions and always seek opportunities to pay less. When you get an increment, do not increase your standard of living. Otherwise, your costs will simply match your improved income. When you have a pay increase, allocate a bigger proportion to it towards savings. Avoid waste in the home. If we need mitandaiwiri to eat, just restrict mitandaiwiri. Don't cook 5, believing kutina ikatsala. If there's an opportunity to cook again and eat, so be it. Mkute. Okay? We want to minimize waste. I did a research in Blantyre. I will not mention the shops for confidentiality reasons. I looked at Nido shop. This is a major shop. One shop Nido 3795, another one 3995, 3995, 3899. Saving between the highest and lowest was 200. Baby soft tissues 18, 2 ply 18, whatever. 8,000 shop A, 779 shop B, shop C 8499, shop D 919. Difference between the highest and the lowest 1,400. Chombeti 1075, 1030, 1048, 1199. Difference 169. Then I went to Kazinga 2 liters. Sane 2 liters 8185. Kazinga, it was actually 3 point something. I should have captured it, but there was a difference of 4,440. If you utilize these savings and actually push them in your savings, you will actually germinate 6 million in 20 years. Make consistent saving through to retirement, no matter how small. The principle of compounding interest will grow your funds immensely. If you consistently save 10,000, remember I was remembering these figures. I was wondering whether I'd lost the slide. If you save consistent 10,000 every month for 20 years, the fund will grow to 6.9 million at 10%. Actual amount invested will be 2.4. The amount that you have direct invested will be 2.4. 6.9, the difference is all compounding interest. If you consistently save 50,000 at average interest rate of 12.5 per annum, not far from reality of Malawi, average interest rate, over a period of 30 years. So you have started working at 25. 30 years is age 55, right? Oh, sorry. The funds will grow to 159.6 million at the age 55. The actual amounts, can you see what the compounding does? The actual amount that you have invested is 18 million. So the difference between 159.6 and 18 million is all interest. Now, let's reverse. What is happening to the borrower? The borrower is the reverse. Right? He or she will have borrowed 50,000, whatever, and whatever interest will be charged against them. So do you want to be the lender or the borrower? You want to be a lender? Okay. We're going towards the end, don't worry. It's been hard hitting. Prepare your social capital as you go towards retirement. What do we mean? Turn your house into a home. You can actually have a house which is not a home. Okay? A home is where relationships thrive and, there is life. Create strong incentives to be at home. There was a time when you go to Lilongwe and the meeting finishes at 10 a.m., you still spend the night there to enjoy the room. A room. Why don't you make your room just like the hotels?
You wonder how people are like hotels. Sorry, I should not. You know, be in a hurry to spend your time in your home. Miss the music. Music, you know, have fun with your relationships. Okay? If you don't know how to cook better meals, train your, whether it's your spouse or whoever. Strengthen your relationship with your spouse and family before retirement. There will be a period during retirement here. You know, when you retire, all former employees, they go. The Patricias, they have left. You know, you are just the two of you. Now, if you hated each other, can you imagine how many more years? Now, you know somebody big has divorced, right? Was money the problem? No. So, are you now convinced that men and women are three parts: emotions, mind, spirit? If you sort out the material side, you are in trouble. Because emotions can actually jettison you badly. Better take care of this. Anchor your life in a strong spiritual environment. No amount of wealth will provide you with emotional security. Retirement years can be years of significant reversals. When you are approaching 60s, 70s, chances are a lot of people will be dying. And if you do not have very good social ties, it can be very, very troubling for you to sustain. And so it's important that you have good ties. Don't be a loner. Don't be contented with a sports club. Make sure you have relationships. Maintain viable communities for emotional support during time. And churches and other support groups are critical. Even a charity. Start a charity. I'll take care of widows. I'll take care of orphans. You know, they will give you a sense of purpose in life. You know, I teach at university for free, and I love it. I love it. And so some of this stuff are straight from my lectures. You know? But it's, okay, make sure that your principal family residence is located in an environment which is conducive to a quiet enjoyment of retirement. I've talked about Chikamwini. I don't think I want to repeat that. If you doubt about that, go and read Genesis 31. You know, Jacob went to Chikamwini unwillingly. So he prospered there. You know, Jacob prospered. All these principles. Now, Archibald, they actually had a caucus. This guy is stealing our father's property. Oh, well, why is he being so rich? And you know, there was tension. Now, Jacob is a master of strifes. So he says, Anapanganakazo, tijoke, titawe siku. And you know, he grabbed the women and ran away. And then he, you know, Laban followed. And then he chased, said, how come you've run? I said, no. You abused me 7 years. For one woman, I worked 7 years. For a wrong one, for that matter. Now you added more 7 years. I have labored so much. No. If you cross this line, you are a dead man. That's what Chikamwini does. If you cross this line, you are a dead man. It's not viable for relationships. Now, not all, as I said, it's not everyone. Not all. I'm sure there are exceptions. Yeah. Very few, I might say. I will hammer it until this nation, because I can assure you the poverty in this country has to do not with government policies. It's backward social structures that, you know, frustrate savings and investment. Yeah. In Mchinji, where I come from, I was late driving by. I wanted to buy bread. 10 o'clock, I found one shop open. Found this light lady. All the shops are closed. I said, who is this one? He says, no, she's from Burundi. Why? Where are the rest? They are sleeping. Do you know in Malawi shops close at lunch hour? which is amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Colonial legacy. When you have programmed the people in the wrong way, that habit goes on even 6 days. Nthawi ya kulanchi kutseka. Makastoma maromota kagulira nchawa akweza atseka mwina ukukalipira kumene nthawi yotseka tupitani. Do not hold grudges with anyone as you drift toward the senior citizenship. Make amends with all family members. Your own children come. Ngatana nunakulakwirani, please mundikhululukire. Timala kwantu. Kaze ntabwera kuno. No, ngatina, don't hold grudges as you approach retirement. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And hamene simaenda kaendele and surprise them. Awana tsaba ngono pumula. Let them say, but at least you've cleared your side of the ledger. Health and wellness. You know, when you reach 35, trust me, your body begins to deteriorate. Begins to deteriorate. On one morning you find the shoulder is paining. You say, what has happened? The next time, like B.B. King says, if it's not hurting, it is not waking. Even after returning from job, don't stop work. Continue to work. Lead a healthy life. Regular medical checkup, proximity to a good hospital. As you hit 50 years of age, ensure you have adequate sleep. I rarely have it. Regular exercises. Proper stress management. If stress comes out, some worries come through, find a good way of actually offloading it. Take essential supplements. People wonder, why are supplements important? They are. For 2 reasons, or 3. Number 1, you remember, if you have an old car, I used to have a Datsun. Datsun was my old car, my first car. If you drive to Lilongwe Datsun, it was a 10-year-old, the oil water, you had to replenish. So you wonder, where has the oil gone? It's an old car. If you've got a brand new car, you don't even want to check water. You don't even want to check oil. You can jump into the car off you and Karonga. Your bodies are like Datsun when you're at 50. Everything is falling apart. And so regular intake of food is not adequate. You do require supplementations in terms of vitamins. You know, for women, calcium is critical because, you know, your bones, you know, tend to get soft as you grow old. So as you now prepare for retirement, sustain your health by actually selecting, you know, some of these supplements. COVID has taught us one thing. Supplements matter. You know what I mean? There was no cure, but supplements. People have known what is zinc. Some of us have consumed this zinc for 20 years. We already had tons and tons of supply. Zinc actually, you know, for prostate cancer, you know, you need to take zinc. You know, because as you grow old as men, the absence of zinc results in prostate enlargement. Women, calcium for your bones, okay, but also you need antioxidants. Antioxidants. There are so many, like, you know, vitamin C, all those. If I told you, I actually have got a big pile of, my wife has to stop me sometimes. I consume a lot of them. Why? You want to sustain your health wherever you can. Okay? Eat a lot of vegetables. Don't like frying. Don't like, if you don't like this white rice, white sima, it's not good for you as you grow old. Very, very important. Drink a lot of water regularly to clear the gut, but also water, the cleaning of the gut reduces the risk for bowel cancer. You know, all these are important. Actually, we have a group. Something I should have mentioned is that just as you have groups for finance, you should also try to have support groups for your own health. Are we together? Stress is not good at all. Wills and inheritance significantly involve your spouse and elder children regarding your financial, because death could come earlier than retirement, by the way. While you are waiting for retirement, you could easily get hit by death. Let them be aware about all assets and liability. Write a letter which guide family members about important details about your life. Write all those things. Kwakuti kuli mwana sina bange disclose. Yeah. Consider making lifetime gifts to your family depending on circumstances. You know, my grandfather distributed his gifts before he died. Some of the things, just distributed them. Maki nasema gwitsanchiro, why not? Just give them while you're alive. Do you really want to wait until you die? No. Draw up a will. Do not procrastinate the drawing of a will. If you have substantial assets, consider establishing a trust, setting clear objectives. A trust, you transfer, you know, I like Mr. Mpats, I spoke on the TV very well. He explained, you know, you transfer all your assets into a trust so that by the time you die almost without anything. Everything is in the trust. And you appoint trustees, they run with it, and you're there comfortably. Investments is a growth strategy aimed at increasing value of investments and sustainability. Some people would say, well, yes, we have saved, but saving, is that no? No, we need to go beyond savings into investments. Investments involves taking risks at varying degrees. Some have substantial appetites for risk. Some people are just created with a huge appetite for risk, you know? Some of them are so timid, they can't take even a small risk. We have got different extremes. These are what you call entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs love risks. And even if they lose everything, you find they don't even lose sleep. Anazolera. But many new Congo lose 10,000 kwacha. Kuonda ba. Due to immense risks and capital requirements, very few go into venture capital projects. In fact, nearly 50% of venture projects fail. On average. Any new ideas on a business, 50% usually fail. The question is, which side are you? Instead, most investors invest in the money market or the capital. This is where now Nico comes in. They are organizing this seminar in order to provide an opportunity to say, you may not have the stamina to save, not rather to invest. Leave it to others who know how best to analyze the situation. Having said that, we have some wonderful Malawians we should be proud of. You know, I want to mention them, but you know them. You know, they're doing something, isn't it? Yeah, let's watch them. And there are also some people mwina timango on a negative side. I've actually observed them, why they make money. And if you observe them closely, they follow these principles. I bought an iPhone from a certain shop I will not mention. When I saw the phone he himself was using, I was very discouraged. Somebody told me in ICT, the inventor of Facebook told his children, don't use it. It's not good. I created it for other people. So these addictions are meant for you and me. Most investors invest in money market, and this is where we are here. There are depository institutions, commercial banks, credit unions, savings associations. There are contractual saving institutions. So insurance is what we call contractual. You sign a contract and then you pay premiums. If it's short 1 year after expiry, but staff, you haven't been involved now. Some people they complain, I've just paid the premiums. Or mafuna mpange goes. Which is better, pay premium, no accident. Do you want an accident and use the premium? It's better to pay premiums and have no accidents. Pension funds, these are now institutions. My colleagues will elaborate on these ones. But I wanted to say about microfinance. A lot of groups have emerged. Yeah, I did some studies in Bangladesh on these small savings group. There are certain rules that, you know, what happens if somebody defaults in these small groups? What happens? Sorry? Sorry? Yeah. That's not really how it's supposed to happen. And Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, pioneered by, you know, Professor Yusuf, if you have a group of women savings, whoever you are, and someone is struggling, you know, that's why it's called a support group. Help them, maybe they're in the wrong business. Allow them to restructure. You know, allow them to restructure, meaning can they be allowed to pay a little longer? If you grab personal assets, is that empowerment? That's cruelty. And you know, I'm sorry, I mean, I did some studies, but I don't quite like some of the patterns. Groups are supposed to be support groups. If one is struggling, then the others rally behind, unless they are a misfit. Maybe they are not capable, then you kick them out of the business. Because tomorrow it will be your turn. Okay? So that model needs to be looked at a little more. But there are, you know, other groups, you know, I know Nico last year used a gentleman, I don't have permission to mention, but they were young men, you know, in their 90s, you know, they were saving, they were meeting. I think now their assets are over 10 billion kwacha as a group. So group savings associations are very, very good if properly. But make sure you really trust one another. Because one can actually just walk away and you know, in the paper, that's, you know, nothing to so just that's why we have these institutions, very credible, that they will not lose your money. Investment in money market, we're talking about savings, fixed deposits, treasury bills. And in the banking sector, within Nico Group, obviously, we have NBS Bank, which is very, very dynamic. I was also involved in the, first transaction, the privatization, and the second, the IPO. My own first house was actually funded by NBS Bank. Took a mortgage and be able to pay. Okay? We used to have blue books. You actually queued to pay a mortgage. Tough. Fixed deposits, treasury bills, they're all there. But just be aware, money markets, they will not give you the best of interest rates. But it's a good deal because you're not taking any risk, are you? They are guaranteeing liquidity. You can get the money whenever you want. Why should they pay you too much? Money market instruments are characterized by low inherent risk, high liquidity, and guaranteed returns. However, due to low inherent risk, the returns generally tend to be low, sometimes below the rate of inflation. And that's why we go to the capital market, bonds and the debt security. Bond, you know, like the interchange in Lilongwe, it's also in BS Bank, isn't it? Oh, very creative, very aggressive, you know. Went on the market, raised a bond in order to finance the interchange in Lilongwe. How I wish it was one in Blantyre. Maybe let's wait for one in Blantyre. Shares, a share is a unit of ownership in a company. When you own a share, you become part owner. You know, I took students to the stock exchange last week, and they were saying, look, even a student, you can buy a share. Some of these shares are 500 kwacha, you know. You can accumulate. It's the same concept of little by little. Stock exchange facilitated the raising of capital. You know, first time, you know, when you are floating it's called an IPO and the primary market. When Airtel came, oh, Oh, I saw people are very illiterate in financial matters. Oh, this is a something which is a monopoly, a multinational. And you know what? Look at the performance. Because of the COVID, they have even made a killer. So make sure you seek advice for some of these things. And they are all within Nico assets. Mr. Dunga is actually, an astute financial person. There are others. They will give you advice. Don't just go alone. You can actually burn your fingers. Make sure you go to people that understand these things. There are 16 counters, trading on the stock exchange. You can buy shares during IPO, or you can buy from the secondary market, meaning other people are selling. But remember to seek advice. The one who is selling is convinced that things will not be better. The one who is buying is convinced that something is going to be better. So you also need optimism in the market. If you are a pessimist, you cannot participate in the stock market. You need an optimist. There's always going to be a brighter day. High interest rates generally tend to push the price of shares, and the investors switch to bonds. Bonds, by the way, as I said, is debt financing. So if a company wants to borrow, it will issue a bond, or it may issue shares. Remember one principle. These securities, the seller is the one who is borrowing, okay? The buyer is the one who is lending. Just remember that. Shares and stocks, sellers, or the ones that are issuing, are the ones that are borrowing. And the ones that are buying them are the ones that are lending. This is the performance. This is a slide from the stock exchange. The market capitalization means the values of shares have gone up 6,350 times. There's a young man in Lilongwe who has been active on the stock market. When we were offloading Malawi Finance Bank, anangobwera ndikagwanda kwake kuti nyumba yaku 43 mutipatse. So we thought he was joking. Where are you going to get money? No. I'll sell some of my stocks. And he bought it, area 43. Next time it will be you, but it will not just come cheap. You need to start buying shares. That's the way the market plays. It's for a long jump. But remember, Ilovo shares were sold at Kwagwanji. I think even in Nico, Kwagwanji. How much are Nico shares today? 55. That's even after share splits, maybe. You can never go wrong. You can never go wrong. But don't be spectators. Don't be spectators. Kulandira ndarama zako chikamwini zijakapanga invest for stock market. Don't just keep it. So can you see how the performance, people have benefited. Most of the pension funds are actually, they're putting their money there. Do you know that there are foreign investors that invest on our stock market? If someone from the United States can see value in Malawi, if you're saying, you need a portfolio. A portfolio means an assortment. Most investors, you find Malawi muno muntu ali nyumba 100. Is that a portfolio? No, a portfolio means a mixture. Ichi chikalowa pansi, china chikwera. Ichi chikalowa pansi, ichi chalowa. Chaka cha COVID zavuta kuma banki, kuma ku IT zatani. Then it's a balanced portfolio. You need to diversify in order to, lower, or at least to take care of unsystematic risks. Diversification is a way of avoiding putting all eggs in one basket. And this is where we end. The mutual funds. Mutual funds is giving us an opportunity. Small savers, you know, you have received a gratuity, maybe you apita kunja kwatsaka allowance, throw it in the mutual funds. You know, leave it to the dungas to worry about where to place it. What you want is during the AGM to cause hell, to say, what did you do with your money? What did you do with the money? And you also need to have holy anger. You know holy anger? Where you say, I want a good return over my money. That's a shareholder. We need to move on as a country where now we are in a middle class, you know, holding stocks, holding bonds. Okay, rather than worrying for 60 years for subsidized fertilizer, we should move on from there to being owners of capital and playing a player in the market. Thank you for your attention. This is all I had to offload. It's not everything, but it gives you a feel of what you do to be in the market. You can start today. You can start today. What it takes is planning, writing things. By the way, I forgot one too, journaling. One of your homework, go and buy a beautiful journal from a bookstore. And that journal will be for you to record decisions every day. You know, how am I doing in terms of investments? How am I doing in terms of savings? Am I consuming too much or am I spending too much? Where do I need to correct? And then over a period of a year, you'll be plotting and then you'll be tracking your goals that you have set. May God bless you, and I wish you a wonderful retirement whenever it comes. May it not be too soon. Thank you so much.
Another warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I think we have all been challenged, and we need to interrogate ourselves. And some of the key questions that Mr. Lipunga asked is that, are you clear about your calling? Do you know your retirement needs? Do you know your future financial needs? What about protecting your savings? What is your plan? And the most important of all for me, instant pleasure versus delayed gratification. Questions and comments from the audience. Any questions? Yes, right at the back. Sharon, please provide a microphone.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank you, Bwana Lipunga, for your comprehensive and insightful presentation, and thank Nico for facilitating this. I just wanted to ask a question and maybe a comment. The question is on the financial aspects, the financial savings. You encouraged that you should, be saving maybe at least every month, put in a savings, and that after a certain period, you'll be surprised, how it accumulates. And then you talked about the stock market, the Malawi Stock Exchange, and the graph that you showed, you are stating that it has grown by over 6,000 times. So I just wanted to ask, of course it's important to have a diversified portfolio, but with such the impressive performance of the Malawi Stock Exchange over such a period, is it worth saving in a bank? Why not just put all your money into MSC? With such a high performance output that it has. So that's the question. And maybe the second one is more of a comment. From the beginning, you emphasized that one should be guided by their calling, should be guided by, why they're here, or what is supposed to be their contribution. So I just wanted, maybe it's a comment and a question. What if one doesn't find their calling? No, I mean, what if one doesn't have a sense of their calling? Maybe for someone to have a sense of their calling, maybe it's a blessing. You're blessed with that. Maybe most of us, we don't really get a sense of what it is that is our calling. So maybe if you could also, try to tackle that. Thank you.
Maybe let me get one more question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, again, I would like to thank Mr. Ripunga, who have learned a lot. My question centers on what you, it's myself. Yeah, what you said about liabilities and the assets, that the assets and liabilities must be disclosed to your spouse and the elderly children. Of course, we have understood, and then you proceeded to say you must also make a will. Is it advisable? Because most people say that a will, you should not advise your spouse. I don't know if it is true. Yeah, because I never made a will, but I've wrote that if you disclose that I've prepared a will, that if I die, my wife will get 50 million, this daughter last born 70 million, I'm told it's not advisable because you can die earlier. So is it true? Or is it advisable?
Okay. Yeah, something I probably didn't say is my own journey, because there's no point in lecturing people and you yourself have no story. People are not going to be impressed. So I'm looking at your question, but I wanted to just squeeze. When I was very young, age 10, I never liked asking anything from my father. In fact, I found it very demeaning. Remember in Chikangawa, we used to live in Chikangawa, I would go, ask, that was age 10. Kuchecha, kunyamula mitengo. I actually got 4.80. There was a butter shoe at 4.99. My father added 19 tambala. I still remember that. When we lived in Zomba, I was in standard 7. We used to sell firewood to the campsite, and they sell strawberry, sell the crystals. Remember 1976, I was able to buy a couple of trousers using those funds. Then went to Mulanje. I used to be a porter, carrying stuff for tourists. I just loved financial independence, and for some, there may be spouses, maybe wives who are not working. I don't think they should be as idle as some are. There are a lot of opportunities. I would buy wheat marketer, get potatoes, boil them in a tin. You go to a construction site, they disappear like you won't believe it. There's plenty of opportunities. You can buy a crate of Coca-Cola, put it on the road while you are mopping the house. Somebody passing by, they want a drink. Plenty of opportunities to make money. The question was calling. How do we know that we are called? How do you know that you're a musician, by the way? Let's start from there. How do you know that you're a musician? Number one, interest, right? You look at a guitar, you want to try it. You look at a piano, you want to try it. I've tried a guitar and my fingers, they hurt like anything. It's not something that I'm called. So one is interest. 2, affirmations. Other people affirm you to say, oh, but you know what? You're so good. You're so good. Your own family should affirm you. Your friends should affirm you. So you tend to get a little bit of direction to say, largely this is a territory. In my organization before I retired, we did the, you remember Patricia? Oh no, she's gone. Okay, yeah. We did profile everybody. There are tools that help to profile people so that you have some idea what you are very much about. Others are leaders. Others are coaches. Others are just skilled, you know, in A, B, and C. But it's interest, affirmation, because it's in your DNA anyway. It's in your DNA, so it comes out. So maybe you haven't been seeking. Sometimes if you don't seek, it's very hard to find. So just take an interest, it will be there. How do you, what was the second one? The first question was, what? Oh yeah, no. The money market. Okay, your question is like saying, if university is so good, why don't you just go to university? You know what I mean? Because money market is really, these are progressive. When you're just starting savings, you start with the money market. So my own story, by the way, in the 80s I had started working, I used to save. My first sofa set was a Canada lounge suite in Presco Press Furniture. December 1983, I still remember. 1008, I got a discount. 200 something, it was enough to buy a dining set. 1008 kwacha, best sofa set, plus dining table. Where was I saving money? New Building Society. That was where my bank was in those days. Okay? And then the house that actually that we were staying in, I actually bought cash. Right? Through years of saving. I get a gratuity kusunga. Monthly payment. In fact, there was a time we were actually on World Bank packages, and 2/3 of my salary would just go towards savings. In fact, Nico's CEO, Group CEO, was my financial advisor. When he was at CDH, he was keeping my money. Okay? And then, you know, the beauty about saving is you got power on the market. So when the house was found, you know, iniyo mukamalimbana mukapanga process magaloni uko look out. A woman came, she was very angry because she had gone to, she didn't say whether she was buying, she went to fill forms. Now, I don't know how much time it takes, you've been society. 2 years, I don't know how long. By the time she was, oh sorry Peter, I'm not gula cash. And you know, with the cash, you can also negotiate a price. Can you negotiate a price with Ngongole? So, now on the stock market, I have been active, but not much. It's because my job restricted me. As a CEO of PPP Commission, I was restricted from participating in IPOs that I had facilitated. But I still eventually picked some night and what have you. So money market is where you start from. You aggregate funds in the money market. You have to pile money in the money market. And then from the money market, you go into the capital market. That's how it works. You cannot just go, because there are also transaction costs. You can't say, oh, 5,000, I'll buy 10 shares. It doesn't work well. So you need all of them. Even the mutual funds that we call mutual funds, it's a combination of capital market bonds and shares, but also treasury bills. Treasury bills can also be a wonderful tool. train your children, by the way, something that I have to train your children to save. How would you train them? Don't give them what they need. If they go to school, don't buy them biscuits, kamba, blah. No, give them an allowance. An allowance so that they can learn to manage their own funds. You know, vote limene kuti vote nziko nomando kuti muntu ni kalelo omwe sana grepo ndalama. All of a sudden kudzaka CEO. Yeah, so we want to train faithfulness and savings. Wills, well, whether you disclose or not, that wasn't even my point. I was talking about a letter. Ndigadzamwalira mukapite kwa uje mukapeza kalata ya all the instructions. Usually it will be a lawyer. A lawyer will have a letter that explains everything. And the will, you don't just do it once. You continuously write a will. There's a major change, you go and revisit it. Anamaliza school, you go and revisit it. You know, so it's not something that we do once. You do it so many times, but do it quickly, you know, because otherwise what happens if you don't have a will? You know what happens? The funds zimapita kwa DC. Ndikumende sipano magatruka nkhope zoto kanu iso ni mwana fama angopita kwa DC kuja. Amapita kwa DC kuja. Ndadadi amenaje. Yeah. So you can avoid that by, you know, will. I'm at interstate, and you know it can be challenged by relatives, all sorts of things. Very simple. You're a good lawyer. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't mean you are dying, by the way. It doesn't mean you are dying. Every time you go into an aircraft, I mean, I don't know why me with aircraft. Every time I have a trip on an aircraft, I always say, "Where's my will?" For whatever reason, I became very nervous. You know, please, pakuti. It's not like Bango's this garment you can't come. There's something interesting about flying. Yeah, put your heart. So I would always go bed very late, Paulendo, because I'm still sorting out. Password, because you need to show your passwords as well. Password, magut. These are the questions. This answer. Manva, yeah. Family meetings. Don't underestimate your children. Train them. Do you know? It's descendants that are. Kamulika business involve your children. They should learn. If you don't tell them, my units magets, because you have never taught them. Kuti TV, makandi remote, mazwa atamalira. Teach them, explain to them. Yeah, it can only be good for. Okay, akakuperifa jawiru. It's a trust, isn't it? Now, why did you marry her or marry him if you don't trust them that much? Okay, because they could even kill you while you are asleep. Yet they don't need to wait for a will. Yeah, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. This is just a stewardship. Yeah. Just shout out here.
Maybe a comment. Maybe mine is a comment or a suggestion, I don't know. The saving culture in one way is being hampered by the way maybe the banks are behaving. I left some money with a bank, I will not mention a name, for over a year. Say I had put in 10,000. By the time I was going to that money, I only found that I had 2,500. Instead of that money growing, it was only paying expenses. So that is also something that needs to be looked at, because why would I put 10,000 today and say I want to use it next year? Instead of finding the 10,000 growing, I find 2,500. That needs to be looked into. As much as they have got costs, but also the person putting in money there is expecting something by the end of the day, is expecting growth. This is a savings account.
We need to do is to keep records, diligently keeping reconciliations, because there may be other funny charges that go there and you are not paying attention. You should be able to query. So did you query when they did it, or you just discovered after 1 year? Okay. No, they will answer. They will answer in the right. Yeah. I think there was another hand. No, then I think we need to. Yes. Then.
We have a great presentation you've given us, how to prepare ourselves, how to plan for retirement.
Yeah.
Now my question is to you. You've taken us through all this.
Yes.
What are you doing when you're retiring now?
I thought I'm teaching you. No, it's not private.
Yeah, so you can share so that we can motivate us to really see that you're really doing something.
Yeah, so in my final contract, and there's someone from my former employment, 2 contracts away, I mentioned to them that I intended to step down. And so we had a proper succession plan. You know, confidence in your exiting should be shown by your succession plan. Not a fake one, a real one, eh? Because there are a lot of fake succession plans. Yeah. Real one, burn the bridges, I'm actually going. And, you know, she will tell you we had meetings, you know, within staff. How do we choose a successor? What qualities? I'm burning my bridges. And you really empower them, send them for training to enable them to take over. Okay? Meanwhile, I was also, and that's where I was saying you are calling. I was very careful how I chose my courses for training. Most people just go for courses just to pass time, right? Course yotanapanga attend katatu, but because it's happening in Switzerland, they don't mind doing it a 50th time. Is it really adding value? And you know, I discovered there's a place in Washington, they call it IP3. And when there's a course there, it's just Africa and Washington. You don't learn anything. So I would actually go out and attend my course as you know, because I know what I was preparing. No allowances, no lunch, no laptop. But I didn't mind because I knew what I was going to go for. So what am I doing? I'm lecturing to you about pensions. So it's consultancy. I love leadership issues. Leadership, I love that. Finance, I do, but mostly it's leadership. And it's fun. It's fun. There is no substitute. I can't trade it for anything, not even being a CEO. If someone said be a CEO of a parastate, I would say, sorry, thank you very much. I love what I'm doing now. So it's not, I'm not doing it because I have to, but I actually thoroughly enjoy it. Yeah. You too can enjoy what you're called for. but you also have to prepare. So we talked about savings. You must also prepare in what you are going to do. And I'm talking about preparing meaningfully. I go to Malaysia for a course, suitcase full of books. I go to this one, suitcase, books. If you came to my place, you'll be shocked. Whether live, she knows. Useful stuff. It's time, and the books don't rot. Someone who bought a suit in 1990, it's probably not there, but a book is there. Yeah, so you also have to invest in what you want to do. Let me stop there. I think that was the final question. Yes.
Again, thank you for the lively and insightful presentation. Really looking at many retired people, they really look miserable. And I've been asking myself, and at one time I asked my wife, what is wrong with retirement? So this is, I think, very useful. But I have a question for you to say, okay, you planned, but just like any other plan, sometimes you plan and things don't turn out the way you planned. What has been your experience? Has there been any shocks in your life? Has things really turned out the way you planned? And what are some of the shocks that people experience out there? They have prepared properly and then they discover things don't work out, they fall apart.
Yeah, plenty of shocks. So I exit August 2019, full of excitement. I'm going to hit a job market. I will hit the market, the consultancy market. January, COVID starts. I can't sell anything because now you must understand when I talk about spiritual, okay, it's in that context, because if you are restricted to what you can do, you'll be dead before too long. You must understand that if something has been allowed, that's what Frank Covey says, you have a choice. It provides you choices. Any problem provides you with a choice. Don't panic, but be proactive. So I actually saved one client, and I'm trying to build. He says, no. We didn't say we should start working. And I said, okay, fine. It's okay. I'm getting experience. I mean, the idea of just being in your organization has been quite a good thing. But COVID was a big one. So the resources that would have probably allowed me to invest in let's say building a business was now being used to basically support just living. Okay? Now, this is what happened. When I was leaving, retiring, we didn't know about Zoom. We didn't know about Team. And so while people were feeling sorry for me, he's now going home, I discovered everyone is going at home. So it made retirement even more bearable, because I was no longer unique. Everyone is at home. More importantly, that's now looking at the positive side. They developed software left and right to allow you to operate from home, almost as if it was done for my sake. I had an assignment with a major bank for 3 months, from the comfort of my home. Didn't even have to travel. A lot of assignments just in the comfort. If it wasn't for COVID, that would never have happened. Now the technology will remain even after COVID. So, you know, there are minuses, but you also identify the pluses. I think the money that I spent has been more than made up because of, you know, in this club, I go to this international, can I train you? No. We send our people to South Africa. Or can I train? No. Our needs are met by Magut. When COVID struck, can you please quote us? So thank you so much. You are very kind. Yeah, you're very kind. So that's how we should look at life. Don't look at life fixated on a problem. There are always blessings that are hiding. Sure. I had a finally. Oh no, that's a different one.
In the interest of time, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. I will not take much time, but mine is more like a comment. Thank you, Mr. Lipunga, for the great presentation. Thank you, Nico, for having me this morning. I would also like to thank NBS Bank for making this, for bringing me here anyway. My experience, I started business 10 years ago, and I'm glad that I learned that lesson 10 years ago. I do recruitment. There was a month I could not pay my employees, and I was forced into getting Caterpillar. I got 1 million. I ended up paying 8 million. And that was 10 years ago. So I just wanted to comment on the point that you mentioned about knowing when to borrow. So the lesson that I learned 10 years now, I weigh on my loans, what am I getting it for, and also be on top of paying back the people that I own. So thank you very much, and most of your presentation actually has taught me a lot. I'm 40 years old. I'm planning to retire at 50, mostly maybe 55, but it has also given me more insight on what areas I would say I was lacking, so thank you very much. And I would also want to thank NBS Bank. My business has grown, and it's all because of NBS Bank, so thank you.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I think we'll cut short our program. We will not have the panel discussion. Instead, I will call upon Daniel Dunga, Chief Investment Officer at Nico Asset Managers, to just explain to you what exactly we do as Nico. You know, part of our mission is to support individuals, families, small to medium enterprises, big corporations in building or creating wealth. And so Daniel will expound more on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A big hand to the MC. And a very big hand to Jimmy. Please be generous. Thank you. I would just take 1 or 2 minutes, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 10 minutes. I'm just kidding. Just a few minutes. You know, to just like put into context what we were doing this morning. As you are aware, Nico is a financial services group. So we are about financial services. We are about money. And we are not shy about money. You know, some of you that are very spiritual, you like to say, you know, money is the root of all evil. Yeah, that's not what we are about. For us, we have another scripture. which says money answers all things. And therefore we have a bank, we have a life insurance company, we have a pension services company, we have an asset management company, we have a property company. We are a one-stop financial services solution. But what were we doing this morning? You will discover that from the presentation that we had from Mr. Lipunga. It's only about 25% of it was about money. The rest of it was life in general, you know. So that as you're preparing for retirement, there's not one aspect only. We're not saying preparing for retirement is stashing money. I don't think that's how the presentation came out. Right? Money is one side of it. But he tackled health, social fabric, he talked about friendships, he talked about social capital, and that's what we were intending to do. That is to say, as we are dealing with the financial aspect of our lives, there are other things. So we're not about to start a wellness company. We'll just invite Mr. Lipunga. We're not about to start a church like Nico Pentecostal Church. We'll just invite, because he talked about spiritual foundations. So we're not about to start, what else did you talk about? Or like marriage counseling, limited. We will just invite people. Our idea is to say, much as we are doing our part, which is financial security, we understand that a human being is not just money. Our clients are not just money. So our clients are not just a bank balance. Our clients are real people with real people issues. So very well covered. Thank you very, very much. How many say he should come back? How many say we should do this again? And how many say it should still be for free? No, how many say we must pay next time? No money. All right. So just talking about Nico, like I said, we have a bank, we have life insurance, we have pension services, we have asset management. When we are talking about securing your financial future, so I'm sure you've already secured your spiritual future, you've secured your marriage future, your family future, and your social capital. Now, our job is financial security. When you're talking about securing your financial future, a lot of people miss the idea. So when I talk to a client to say, look, you can start a journey of building a portfolio for your future, so it's securing your tomorrow. You know, the question that I always get from people, oh, for example, Mr. Lipunga said 50,000 every month consistently. The question that I always get would be, okay, so can you show me, if I start 50,000 now every month, can you show me how much it will be in 20 years' time? So it's like, you know, you want me to prophesy or to, or to guarantee. And that is a question that we always get. I don't know whether we ask the same question when we are going to school to say, well, when I start standard 1, can you show me? We just start, isn't it? And this is the deal. There are 3 blocks in the idea of securing your financial future. The first block is the accumulation stage, which is what he was talking about. Decide on an amount of money that you set aside. Whether that money will grow or not, that's not the question for that time. That's not the question for that time to say, how much will it grow to? I mean, you're asking about growth before you have even planted. So the first stage is accumulation, which is like planting. The 50,000 are your seeds. You're putting them in the right place. Under right conditions, it will grow. But the question is, should I plant now? Yes, the question is, start planting. Then the second phase is protection. So you have accumulated to X. You've built your house, you've built your car, you need those assets that you have worked so hard to build to be protected. That's where insurance comes in. I kept forgetting general insurance. Nico started as a general insurance company, by the way. This is where insurance comes in, and a lot of us think insurance is some kind of skimming where you lose money. I can tell you that if you've spent 10 years to build your family home, you've sweated and it's there, you are enjoying it. You don't want anything to take it away in a moment. If the unfortunate happens, you really want a fallback. So that's insurance for your assets, that's insurance for your health, that's insurance for your medical, that's insurance for anything that deals with risk. And then there's the growth aspect. Once the assets have been accumulated, they've been protected, how do we make sure that they grow? Growth can come in two ways. You could just make sure that your assets are invested properly, or you could actually decide part of this money can be used as capital for a business. When you speak to me about investing in a business, I'll tell you it's risky and whatnot, but to be fair to everyone, a business that has worked is also one way of growing your pool of financials. But it must be very well calculated. It must be calculated risk. You don't want to accumulate your assets and then invest in a business that you've not investigated and then lose. So we are now covering all these stages. The accumulation stage, you can speak to Nico Asset Managers. We are about helping you budget, helping you plan, and helping you to begin to accumulate. The growth stage, you can also speak to Nico Asset Managers to say, okay, you have accumulated to this stage, how do we grow this money? The protection stage of your financials or your finances, you can speak to Nico General Insurance for your physical assets, or Nico Life Insurance for your life insurance needs. The other side of the accumulation stage, and we are lucky, I think, that Malawi decided to pass the Pension Act in 2011, and we are being forced by law to save. Because without the force of the law, many people, maybe I could safely say over 60% of people, would actually have no savings. So without embarrassing you, how many of you are on pension? Good, it's everyone. How many of you also have a voluntary pension? So you are topping up your pension voluntarily. Okay. And how many of you have your pension as your only tomorrow basket? Like, how many of you are saying, I've got pension and nothing else? Well, don't raise your hands. But here's the issue. Okay, the first part of pension This is part of your accumulation stage as well. The problem with most of us is that we really don't pay attention to the pension. And I think Jimmy mentioned that we are contributing 5% every month. The employer is contributing 10%. So 15% of your earnings every month are going into your tomorrow basket. 15% is not small, eh? But why don't you pay attention to whether the money went? And if it went, whether it... So, Nico, pensions are the people to speak to. And I'm just throwing it out there to say, for a lot of people whose primary tomorrow basket is pension, at least once a year, demand that you see your pension balance from your employer. If your employer cannot show it to you, if you're with Nico, there's actually an internet portal where you can view your balance, but you must interrogate your balance. So that's the accumulation stage, pension. Then I've talked about Nico Life as well. Very, very important. And Nico Life has got a number of products that will help your protection stage and your risk management stage. There are many things that can just come and disrupt your balance that you have accumulated over years. Many, many things. In this Malawi setting, if there's a funeral and they show up to you and say, we don't have a coffin, you can't run away. You just buy it for them. And yet there are products in the market where, if a funeral happens, that product, Nico Life has that. They'll just pick it up, the whole thing. You don't fork a coin. Is that correct, Victoria? and I've seen it myself. I lost my brother last year. When you have somewhere to go to at that time, you don't know how much value that thing gives. Medical requirements can disrupt life savings over a long time. If all of a sudden a very close relation of yours, your mother, your father, whoever, someone says, but she needs this. And you start thinking, but I've accumulated this 20 million since I was born. Do I keep the 20 million or do I try to save my mother? Medical insurance comes in very handy. And Nico Life has a working relationship with Mazem and other service providers to deal with situations like those. Most of us ignore the protection stage. And we think that the assets that we have accumulated will deal with life situations. My suggestion is, the moment you have accumulated and you've built a balance, put in structures that deal with
That was the retirement planning seminar conducted by Nico, which took place at Mount Sochi Hotel this morning in Blantyre City. Now, the guest speaker was Jimmy Lipunga.